MMAWeekly.com. We are sitting down with one of the longest tenured fighters in UFC history now.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Middleweight, Michael Bisping. How you doing, brother?
Very well, thank you.
Well, here we sit. We're going to get into Munoz in a minute. You know, that fight's in October. But some of the things I wanted to touch on first. Big news in the middleweight division. Anderson Silva is no longer at the top.
Correct, yes.
My first question is there any disappointment on your end?
I mean, obviously, it would always be a dream of mine to fight Anderson Silva and be the guy to take the title, of course. You know, and yeah, I was a little disappointed because Chris, I'm not taking anything away from his win, you know, but we all know that Anderson Silva was acting like an idiot and he got knocked out. And it would have been nice to be that guy that did it. So congratulations to Chris. He's the new champion and he's certainly a formidable force at middleweight. But yeah, it stings a little. You know, I could have easily done that. I could have easily done that. So yeah, it stings.
As we were talking about, we talked to each other probably 6 years ago.
Yep.
And I remember back then that you still had that same attitude.
Sure.
If you give me a shot at Anderson, I can have him. And now, does that do anything to your motivation? Like, I know you've been chasing him now. Literally,
yeah,
I mean, you got in this company when his run started.
Yes, correct.
So you've been looking at Anderson Silva the whole time, aside from 205.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd still love to fight Anderson Silva. I'm a fan. You know, he's an incredible fighter, and to be alongside him the whole time. You know, I mean, I've been in the UFC 2006. You know, to be in the UFC that long, side by side, it'd be a shame not to fight him. You know, he's a legendary fighter. He'll probably go down like a Muhammad Ali type, you know, figure in the sport. And you know, when I'm sat on a bar stool 20 years from now and I can say, yeah, I was fighting in the UFC. Did you fight Anderson Silva? Of course I want to fight Anderson Silva. So hopefully that matchup still happens. But that aside, I'm focused on the belt. You know, I think Chris Weidman's a good matchup for me. I think I'm better on the feet and I think I can stop his takedowns. And if he does take me down, I can get back to my feet. It's kind of similar to the matchup that I've got coming up with Mark Munoz. I believe he's a good matchup. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Anderson Silva, no longer the champ. I still fight him, but I'm focused on the belt. Do
you think Anderson losing's kind of opened up the division?
It certainly made it more interesting. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, there's other guys coming in. You got Vitor, obviously. There's talk of Machida coming down. There's Musashi, who's coming into the division soon. So yeah, it's certainly interesting. Weidman's at the top. I think Weidman's probably going to win the rematch. I think he'll stick to the game plan that he had in the first round and not turn it into a striking match. So yeah, it's interesting times for the middleweight division.
Well, you're sitting here breaking down other fighters. That's been one of your gigs recently. You're here in sunny California, no longer in England. You made the full move. You're doing the commentating. How has the last couple years been in California, and what's the new gig been like? I
mean, living here in California is great. You know, it really is. It's fantastic for myself and the family. Training, yeah, it certainly doesn't. So, I mean, I miss England. You know, I'm an Englishman through and through, and I miss it. I miss home. I miss the sense of humour. I miss my friends and family. Certainly don't miss the weather. Living here in California is great. You know, lots of great training, lots of great training partners. As you mentioned, I've recently signed a contract with Fox, so doing the analyst work. You know, I've only done it a few times. The last one I was there 2 weeks ago. They seem happy with what I do. It's nice to sit and watch the fights and you know, switch your brain on, you know, and you know, break down the fights. So yeah, no, I enjoy it.
And get paid for something else and getting black eyes.
Yeah, that's right. You
know,
well, it's good to keep busy and active and in the public eye in between fights, because as a fighter you'll fight, you know, you'll be all over the websites, and then when the fight's done, you know, it's almost like you go into a black hole and you disappear for 2-3 months. So yeah, it's nice. What's
kind of been the biggest surprise in that shift going into the media angle? You're kind of you're me now.
Yeah, I'm doing a thing tomorrow on via satellite on British television, a UFC show out there. But you know, I mean, I've never been shy in front of cameras, so it seems kind of natural. But who knows? You know, I mean, I'm focused on fighting.
Absolutely. You know, you brought up something. You said 20 years on a bar stool. I can say this, and I fought Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder, being one of the longest tenured fighters in the UFC, if it were to all end tomorrow, you've had this long, illustrious career, fought a who's who list of 205ers and 185ers.
Yep.
If it were to all end tomorrow, how would you want your legacy to be remembered?
Well, if it all ended tomorrow, I would like it to be remembered as a guy that fought anyone at any time, because I honestly have done that. I fought Chael Sonnen on 4 days' notice. You know, I fought anyone anytime. I fought Richard on short notice. I've always been that guy for the UFC. Fought anyone at any time and always fought his heart out.
You talked about Chael. You said 4 days' notice. it seems every time that you get right on the cusp of that title shot, something happens. Something derails you. A split decision, a loss, knockout, whatever. First, how do we stop that from happening with Munoz? Because, you know, this is a really big fight for you. And when you look back on their career, is there anyone that you didn't get, or a fight that you wish you would have had again, maybe more time for Chael? Anything that kind of sticks in your brain? No, not really. I mean, listen, you know, the Chael fight hurt because if I'd have won that, you know, it was a very, very close fight. If I'd have got the decision, you know, I'd have fought for the title. But, you know, I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. You know, I was in a #1 contender matchup with Dan Henderson in 2009. That was 4 years ago. I wasn't ready then anyway. You know, I mean, that was clearly obvious. Dan knocked me out. And if I'd have fought Anderson Silva, the same thing probably would have happened then anyway. So I would have blew my shot, you know. So, you know, with Vitor, you know, I'd abandoned my Thai boxing, you know, completely. I was just doing boxing, and nothing reminds you to go back to Thai boxing than getting kicked in the head. So, you know, I've learnt lessons, and I believe it's all happened for a reason. I'm still a young man. I'm still hungry to get to the top, and I believe it will happen. So all those things, I've learned valuable lessons. And then you take that into a fight with, you know, a guy like Munoz. Absolutely, 100%. You know, I'm not underestimating Munoz. You know, he's a tough fighter, but I believe I'm the better fighter. Well, here's an interesting thing about this fight that I don't know if a lot of people know about. It's been a while since you fought in England. Oh, no, it has. It's been I think about 4 years. Yeah, 3 or 4 years. 3 or 4 years since I fought in England. Certainly 4 years since I fought in Manchester. 3 years when I last fought in London. So I predominantly fight in the US or around the world, Canada, Australia. So, you know, I'm fortunate. I enjoy being an international fighter, but obviously I'm very excited to go back to England and fight there. You know, the UK support has been phenomenal for me, and can't wait to go back to Manchester, my home city, and put on an amazing performance. As I said before, Munoz is he's a tough cookie. It's not going to be easy, but trust me, I'm undefeated in England, and I certainly don't plan on getting beat on the night. Is there any surprise on your end that they haven't used you more in England? Because I think, are you aware that sometimes the English fans are like, hey man, we're kind of getting screwed with these cards. They don't feel that they're, you know, as strong as they should be, and their favorite fighter is, like you said, Australia, Canada, Vegas, but for the last 3 or 4 years, anywhere but England. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a tough one, because obviously the UFC have a business model, you know, and I've been around quite a while. Unfortunately, you know, the UFC have been very kind to me. I'm on a good contract, you know, so you know, they don't have the pay-per-view structure in the UK, so you know, the whole business side of things gets kind of complicated. But they've got a new TV deal now in the UK. There's going to be a lot more UK fights for sure, and a lot more European fights, and hopefully this is the start of many for me. You came in Ultimate Fighter 2. That was still very much extreme and Ultimate Fighter and the Gladiator intro. I mean, there's literally, while you've been in this company, and in just an entire shift in the way the athletes are, the way the sport is presented, the production, all that. What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in that time? That's a tough question, you know. I mean, obviously, you know, when I first started in mixed martial arts, nobody knew what it was. They really didn't. I mean, and then obviously the UFC, you know, it grew and grew and grew, and it's just exploded now. And now it seems like everybody loves it, and it's all their favourite sport, you know, and they're all on the bandwagon, which is excellent, you know. I love it. That's why you have a job. It's why I have a job, and I'm not complaining. So it's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, just a level of professionalism in the sport in general. You know, I mean, I'm with a new management company now, Paradigm Sports Management. And you know, it's just incredible, you know, the way you get treated as an athlete, you know, whereas before, you know, you kind of looked at as you know, maybe a thug or whatever, or you're a cage fighter. Now, you know, we're recognised as athletes, and yeah. Interesting verbiage there, cage fighter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of fallen to the wayside. Yeah, thank God. You know, I never refer to myself as a cage fighter. I'm a mixed martial artist or an athlete, a professional fighter. I'm certainly not a cage fighter. I hate that expression. Yeah. That is, I would also point to that, the acceptance on a global scale the last 7 years. The UFC's done a good job of educating. Absolutely, and especially when they hit like a new area. Yep. No, they're fantastic. The marketing is incredible. Yep. Munoz, October. You guys have been going back and forth a little bit. You had a little comment on your pillow hands, I think? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he had a very original comment that I have pillow fists, and believe you me, I certainly don't have pillow fists, and I've got a lot of knockouts and TKOs on my record. Yes, I haven't one punch knocked anyone out in the UFC, we all know that, but trust me, there's a lot of guys go to the hospital with a very sore head, and a very sore jaw, and a very sore nose, and Munoz will be no different. He says, I have pillow fists. Yeah, alright, well, we'll see. Maybe I can give him one of those pillows when he's laid on the floor in a pile of piss and blood when I'm finished with him. Well, You were talking about sore faces, sore nose, all that stuff. Munoz has some legit power.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You know, I mean, his ground and pound is very impressive. You know, he looks very strong. He's a strong individual. He's a strong wrestler, and he throws wild punches. And I'm sure if they were to connect, they'd be very powerful. The only problem is you can see them coming a mile away. You know, so I think I have a clear advantage on the feet. He has an advantage on the wrestling. You know, that's what makes it a fight. I think it's a classic striker versus grappler matchup, and you know, it's going to be exciting. He's going to bring it. I'm going to bring it. I can't wait.
Now, here's where a win over Belcher and a win over Munoz. Those are two great fighters. Is it enough to get a title shot?
Well, I think the fact that I've been floating around for so long at the top and the way the division is at the moment, yeah, I think so. I mean, I've always fought the best guys, and you know, last 3 victories: Stan, Belcher, Munoz. All right, I fell by the wayside on Vitor, but you know, we won't go into that one. He's chemically enhanced and stays down in Brazil. I don't know why he doesn't fight in the States.
What do you think about
Curious.
That? What do you think about all that? This quasi area? I mean, you're a fighter. You go home to your family. You see your wife. You see your 3 kids. There's all this stuff going on, right? All these things outside of the sport and outside of life, and you got guys running around on steroids or TRT, however you want to look at it. It's a fist-fighting business. Sure. This isn't the NFL. This isn't Major League Baseball.
I think it's ridiculous, if I'm honest. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's only boxing and mixed martial arts that allow TRT. You know, we're not throwing a ball around. We're trying to punch and kick each other in the face.
The 2 sports where you probably shouldn't have TRT.
Where we're trying to hurt each other. You know, you can dress it up and make it sound as glamorous or as sophisticated as you want, but at the end of the day, we're trying to knock each other out. And you know, to be chemically enhanced, I just disagree with it.
How do we change it?
It's not down to me. I'm just a mere fighter. I don't think about those things. I just do what I do. You know, the UFC book fights, I train and I turn up for fights. I don't get involved in any of that. You know, I don't get involved in all this talk of unions and rules. You know, I'm a fighter. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. Yeah, I know my capabilities. I know my limitations.
Well, 34 years old.
Yep.
7 years in the UFC. You fought everybody. What's left? How many years do you think you can keep fighting?
I'm nowhere near done yet. My body is as good as ever. I've been very lucky. I've only had 1 minor surgery. Well, saying that, I just had a detached retina surgery, but
exactly minor.
Yeah, no, exactly. I forgot about that one. But that's, you know, that's all cleared up.
What did that happen from, sparring or?
I think it was sparring. I'm not just you know, occupational hazard, I guess. You know, I mean. I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. I don't wear headgear, so I've learned the lesson the hard way. But you know, I think I've certainly got another 6-7 years. You know, I can see myself still doing this when I'm 40 years old. Obviously, I've got to remain competitive. You know, if I start racking up the losses, then maybe it's time to consider a new job. I certainly don't want to fight anywhere else other than the UFC. You know, so as long as the UFC want me, I'll be here.
That's a common theme I get from a lot of fighters. I was talking to Dan Hardy about that. He's like, listen, if I can't fight with the wolf heart, he's like, I mean, if the UFC won't let me fight, there's no point in fighting anywhere else. I'm here, I've gotten here, made my name here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is it's the Premier League, you know, it's simple as that. It doesn't get any higher than the UFC, you know, and it's an honour for me to fight here and be here as long as I have been. But I plan on staying around for a lot longer. There's plenty more fighting me. I'm getting better all the time. I'm learning still. I'm surrounding myself with new coaches. Took myself to California to better myself as a fighter, and there's plenty much more to come from me.
So you wouldn't do the TNA professional wrestling route?
Listen, people are trying to get paid, so you know I'm not going to disrespect anyone for that. They're trying to get paid, trying to pay the bills, but I'm a fighter. You know, I don't prance around with bloody you know, little skinny pants on and makeup. You know, I'm a fighter. Simple as that.
Well, Mike, I couldn't have said it better myself. I want to thank you for the time here out the Ruka Training Center. You know, a couple more months to the fight. I know we're all looking forward to it, buddy.
I can't wait. October 26th.
Best of luck.
Perfect. Thank you very much.